Hey guys, it's Misty at Gigi's Crib and Creche, and today we're going to change Little Miss Pearl. I have two outfits here because I'm not sure the first one will fit her, so we will see. So let's get to changing her. I have not been doing a whole lot, so I really don't know what to talk about. Nothing's really happened since my little exercise machine debacle. So, oh, this is so not going to fit you. I wish it would. Should we just try for giggles? Let's see. This is an old outfit, so if it's gonna be that big, I'll just put her in the other one. Trying to find a doll that'll fit into some of the clothes I have. Oh, still looks cute even though you're big. Ruffle butt. Pretty sure it's not gonna fit you are my favorite part of the outfit, which is leg warmers. So, pants fit her, but the shirt is really big, and I have a feeling these are going to be really, too big. Nuts. Oh, well, I'll put her in another outfit. Taking your sockies off. Oh. I did find my daughter's going home outfit. Well, I knew where it was, but I decided I was going to try it on one of the dolls, and I noticed there were some stains on it, and I've moved, let's see, from Arkansas to Arizona and Arizona back to Wisconsin, so I've moved four times. I don't even know, y'all. I've so many times I have moved. So, and I held it up to a Build-A-Bear, and that thing was too small for the Build-A-Bear. I cannot believe, and once it's clean I'll show you guys, but it's ridiculous how small this girl was. I was just talking to my mom, and apparently she got down to four pounds and something. I don't know, but she was a tiny little thing, and I could not feed her myself, so I had to feed her formula. But I tried for 2 weeks, so that's probably why she probably lost some weight, because nothing to give her, so started her on formula, just like I did with Aiden. So, and that was getting Aiden to eat formula. That just never really happened. I mean, so many formulas we tried him on, and he just never took a bottle very well. I tried so many different nibbles, and I was so glad. I thought when he would be old enough to start eating solid food, I thought, well, he'll just eat solid food. No. So, needless to say, my son has battled with eating his entire life, and he's got a really bad case of gastroparesis, so that means the bottom of his stomach doesn't open properly to let food into his intestines to be absorbed and everything else. Instead, he'll usually throw it up because it's just basically fermented in his stomach for 3 or 4 days. I tell you, that kid has not had an easy life when it comes to food and sensory and stuff. Now, the one good thing is, well, this is even a little big for you. So his health was he never got like the flu, hardly ever got a cold. I mean, he was never like sick like that. But, Like, if he did get sick, boy, did he get sick. Now, Gracie, she was always at the hospital, so that's nothing new. She has a very low immune system, and she had to be vaccinated twice. And she's not autistic, people, so if vaccines caused autism, and my daughter had to be vaccinated twice because the first set of, and this was when she was like probably 7 or 8, maybe a little younger, not by much. But all of her shots up until that point had not basically been absorbed, I guess, into her system. So she had to get them all again, which is probably one of the reasons why she's terrified of getting a shot. Shots hurt, but I don't like getting my blood taken. But it's really, it makes no sense because I'm fine with getting things pierced, but put that little needle in my arm and draw my blood out, and I'm, dying. So, anyway, here's little Miss Pearl. Lisa, you should recognize this outfit. This is so cute. It's white, I just never like to put it on. I like to keep it white, so I only change into this one every so often, just because it is white. Of course, now I don't have a dog and kids to, jump all over stuff. Though I do have a cat that likes to do it, but, he's not outside in the dirt and whatever, so maybe I can have white stuff. You look so stinking cute in this. Oh my gosh, you guys. Look at how cute she looks in this. It is so good on her coloring. Doesn't that look good with her coloring? Oh my goodness. Alright, well, I'm going to pause the video and hope that it doesn't stop again. And then I will get set up for reading more out of that book. So give me just a minute, y'all. Okay, so I was looking through Genesis to see if there were any key verses that I wanted to make sure we read along with the story today. And I decided that I was going to read a couple chapters of the Bible. Well, one and a few verses. And if that... Because I think it's, considering what's going on over in Israel, I think this is a really important part of the Bible to learn about, so where, as a Christian, really, I don't want to say where you should stand, because this is no longer, we don't follow Jewish law anymore after Paul started preaching salvation. I think it was Paul. That kind of got away with the Jewish laws, and they still practice Jewish laws over there because they're still living in the promise that God made Abraham, kind of. But it's a good story. Well, yes. So, but this is kind of part of it too. So when we left off, Hagar was pregnant, and her and Sarah were basically fighting. And Abraham had told Sarah just to do whatever. So, your servant is in your hands, Abraham said. Do with her whatever you think best. So then Sarah mistreated Hagar. So Hagar fled from her. And the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, servant of Sarah, where have you come from, and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress Sarah, she said. Then the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. The angel added, I will so increase your descendants that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now with child, and you will have a son. You will name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. So she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Ber Lahai Roi, I think. It is still there, between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abraham gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. And Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you, and will greatly increase your numbers. Abraham fell face down, and God said to him, As for me, this is my covenant with you. And this is also part of it. I've been saying Abraham and Sarah the whole time because I didn't want to confuse anybody. But before the covenant, Abraham's name was Abram, and Sarah's name was Sarai. So as for me, this is my covenant with you, and this is God talking. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. And kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you are now an alien, I will give you as an everlasting possession to be you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Then God said to Abraham, As for you, you must keep my covenants, you and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring. Whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. God also said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her, and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will become the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear an child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, If only Ishmael might live under your blessing. Then God said, Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year. When he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him. And on that very day Abraham took his son Ishmael, and all those born in his household, or bought with his money, every male in his household, and circumcised them, as God told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on the same day, and every male in Abraham's house, including those born in his household or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. So basically, God and Abraham are speaking and talking about, the covenant that God made for Abraham and Sarah and Isaac. The covenants with them. God still blessed Hagar and made Ishmael into, gave him a great lineage. What they say? Bless him, make him fruitful, and greatly increase his number. So he had a big family. I'm going to skip. There are 3 visitors. I'll just tell you this. 3 visitors came to Abraham one day. And says the Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. And when he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat, so you can be refreshed and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered, "do as you say." So Abraham hurried into the tent of Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3... Okay, well, I'm going to say get 3 seahs of fine flour and knead it and bake some bread." And it says that it's probably about 20 quarts of flour. Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice tender calf and gave it to the servant who hurried to prepare it. Then he brought some curds and milk. Hey, he's from Wisconsin. And the calf that they had prepared, and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. And us Wisconsinites think we invented curds. Look, Abraham did. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then the Lord said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already old and well advanced in years, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out and my master is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child, now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and she said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did. You did laugh." So, and then it's going to get into Sodom from there. So, for a little bit. So, let me check. So, so basically, where I started off in the Bible, and I'll just read a little bit to where I can feel like I can find a place to stop. Okay, so remember he had said, "Your slave is in your hands, do with her whatever you think is best." Okay, the Bible tells us that Sarah dealt harshly with Hagar in Genesis 16:6, which is basically where I started off reading in the Bible. It's the same wording the Bible uses for the way the Egyptians treat their Jewish slaves in Exodus, meaning the oppression and forced labor. Wow, Sarah wasn't very nice, was she? Abraham gave Sarah complete authority over Hagar, knowing what it would mean for the servant woman, and he stood by while Sarah abused the pregnant woman with impunity. Doesn't seem like a very brave man sometimes. In reading any memoir or history of slavery in the American South or the Caribbean, we find the stories detailing the mistreatment of pregnant women the most gut-wrenching. It's impossible for us, as modern readers, to dredge up any sympathy for Sarah at this point. But like the men of the Bible, the women of the Bible are complicated. They are, on the whole, neither fully good nor completely bad people, but simply people in all their messy and uncomfortable humanity. And it's when we see them in their full humanity that God can teach us something about ourselves. The next time we hear from Sarah, she is once again skeptical of God's plan. In one of the Bible's most enigmatic stories, God appears to Abraham at his tents by the oaks of Mamre and tells him that Sarah will bear a child. The story is a strange one because the first verse of the chapter says that God appeared to Abraham, but then the next very sentence says that 3 men stood before him. Well, whatever happened at Mamre, it was clear that this was a very unusual visit. At this time, it wasn't just Abraham God had come to see. "Where is your wife Sarah?" the 3 men asked him. "There in the tent," he says. Then one of them says, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." This was a message for Sarah, loud and clear. When God appeared to Abraham before, he had told him that he would have a son of his body. This time, he was more explicit. It will be a son of Abraham's body and of Sarah's. She is central to this covenant narrative. She is an equal recipient of the promise, and it's almost as though God were saying, "Pay attention this time." Sarah did, and her reaction was immediate. She laughed. She laughed. One of the most extraordinary reactions to a revelation from God recorded in the Bible. However, don't forget, one chapter earlier, Abraham was just as incredulous. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? At this point, Sarah had been done with all the revelations, all the promises. She had seen enough. She had hoped long enough. She had tried long enough. She had twisted her life into knots enough. No more. And so, when the big reveal came, she laughed. "Tell me another," Sarah thought, and God took note. "Why did Sarah laugh?" he asks. "Is anything impossible with God?" We can imagine Abraham turning several vivid shades of purple with embarrassment during this exchange. Sarah hastily tries to fix it too, and she denies laughing, but God responds, "No, you did laugh." The climactic moment of God's revelation to Abraham has just become the world's most disastrous dinner party. We hear Sarah's voice in the next text, one more, with the birth of Isaac 9 months later. So, I think basically there are some parts in this book that are basically summed up exactly the way the Bible is reading it with some, other stuff. So I may just continue reading this book and not the Bible first, unless I find a verse that I really want to talk about. Just because it is pretty on par with what the Bible's saying. So, but, I think what we can take away also now with this part of the story is, first off and foremost, what can God not do, right? Sarah was, how old did she say she was? They were in their 90s, and they were old, and she was done. She was no longer of the age of childbearing, so I'm assuming she had gone through menopause. But, what can God not do? He can bring forth life from a barren body and make that life into great nations, which is now Israel. And God made a promise with Hagar and Abraham, that Ishmael would also, would also have a long line, and after Sarah, you can already see the discord between Hagar and Sarah starting, which of course is going, put on Hagar, was upset. She is upset throughout the whole thing that, Ishmael didn't get the promise. And nowadays, people over, it's still a war. Ishmael's lineage think that they have the promise and the covenant. But the thing is God specifically says in the Bible many times, as we can already see, that the covenant was between Abraham and Sarah's offspring, Isaac. And and if you look over there, Israel has a very, very, very small part of a big land. And Ishmael's lineage has 99% of the land over there, and Israel is left with about 1%, but, as we see both lines, they end up not having the easiest of times. The Jewish people, they flip-flop back and forth. But, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was hard to follow the law. And the law was, the main law was the Ten Commandments. But, man, they had so many laws, you guys. What ways to dress and papers that and scrolls and whatever else they had to carry on them, and layer after layer after layer, and things they couldn't do on what day, and the way they had to prepare food, and what they could not eat, and just things they could not do, and no wonder us as humanity could never fulfill those things. And that's why they had to constantly, every Sabbath, which is Saturday, and they had to bring a sacrifice, whether that be, like with Cain and Abel. Abel brought his finest, and Cain did not. And that caused discord between the brothers. But, you were to bring your best of whatever you had, whether it be vegetables or fruit, or land, sheep or cow or whatever they had. Maybe if they were a seamstress, maybe they gave their best dress, and I don't know, they sold it off to somebody and took the money. I don't know. But I'm just saying, so we are so lucky that we are in an age of grace, that we don't have to worry about all those laws. All we have to do is say that, I believe in you, Lord, and I believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins and was buried and rose again, and he's the only way to get to heaven. And how simple is that? We don't have to do all the things that the Jewish people had to do to gain salvation. We just have to basically, say, please forgive me, and be a little humble, and realize that, that God is somebody we need. And, this world thinks that God isn't in this world, but I don't think they realize that God is still here. The place where God is not is hell. He is not anywhere in hell. He is still in the trees and the grass, in the sunset and the sunrise and the weather, and he's still here. He just has us choose the way we want to serve him and the way we believe him, because we have free will. So I for one am very thankful that I'm not a woman back then, because I don't think I would make it very far. Oh man, yeah, because I'm just headstrong. So anyway, so that's it for today. Y'all have a good afternoon, good evening, and I'll make another video soon. Y'all keep your heads up and your faith strong. Talk to you later.